Welcome to the Go Unpro podcast, a doctor's 52-week journey to an unprocessed life. Now, here is your host Dr. Brent W. Laartz, Associate Professor of Infectious Diseases and Internal Medicine, neuroscientist, and best-selling author.
All right, everyone, welcome to another Go Unpro podcast. This is week 7, a doctor's 52-week journey to an unprocessed life. Can't wait for this week. We're going to have a fun day because this is field trip day, and we're going to try to have more field trips along the way, taking you to the gym, to the kitchen, and that kind of thing. And I can't wait for that. Reporting back on last week's success of the package-free week. Not a very successful week as far as a full package-free week, but I did manage to get a full package day where we got rid of all packages, only did whole foods, and more learning to occur as far as how we can maintain that in the future. So we're going to build on that for the future. Not going to call it a failure. It's a stumbling block. It is a success in the fact that we're learning how to do this. Okay. So, the setbacks were basically around some social gatherings, and it's very difficult to maintain a package-free entire week when there are certain celebrations happening and you're out in public. You can certainly to learn from that, then bringing in your own food and bringing that to, let's say, a party you're going to and that kind of thing, making your own. So a lot of this future of longevity is going to be making food myself that I know is whole food, that I know is healthy, that I know is certain oils that I want to avoid, certain sugar items that I want to avoid. And that's not going to occur every day. And I want to maintain this for let's say a 90% success rate. Failure is inevitable, right? Let it go. Let it go if you fail one time and get back up on the horse. The deal is you have to be successful 9 times out of 10. And so it's very difficult to have a 9 times out of 10 success rate if you go 2 days in a row of not getting the proper either sleep or diet, movement. So if you have 2 days where you don't get onto your exercise program, that is the difficulty. So try to maintain, and I'm trying to maintain the ability to not go that second day. If I fail in just one of these situations, if I know my sleep score was in the 60s, I know that the very next night I need to recover that sleep. Same thing for diet, same thing for movement, same thing for connectivity. If I periodically I want to be alone. I may want to not have connectivity. You know, everybody has those days when they want to get to be sitting in bed and watching TV by themselves. Maybe they're in a funk for a day, but get back up on that horse, get connected the very next day, get that relaxation that you need, get that self time, the me time, the self love time, get that, and then maintain that connectivity. And that's going to make me more healthy in the long run. My longevity is truly a reflection of the strength of the mitochondria, which are poisoned by excess calories. They're also poisoned by any kind of loneliness. And this is all through mTOR. So let's talk about the elephant in the room somewhat, in the fact that there are a lot of people out there espousing certain health behaviors that they think are good because they are gym bros, that they are whatever kind of influencer that's telling you that you need to eat oodles and oodles amounts of protein. There is a lot of data in animal studies suggesting that protein is actually not good for longevity because there are animal studies showing that if you decrease the amount of protein, or if you only feed these animals a diet that is deficient in leucine, that they will live longer than the animals fed a calorie similar diet that has those either protein or leucine. Leucine is an essential amino acid. So if you feed a mouse that diet that is deficient in a protein and the amino acid that is essential for building proteins, how can that be? Since obviously we also know the corollary of a lot of longevity is that we also need strength, and you need muscle for strength, right? And you need protein for building strength. Well, maybe it's not so simple as just we need a lot of protein, we need a lot of strength. Because if you take and give a mouse leucine, it actually stimulates mTOR and stimulates muscle growth through mTOR. So if mTOR is the enemy of longevity and you need mTOR to build protein or to build muscle, then there must be something, some other balance there, some either hormesis that you can't just feed a whole ton of protein to somebody, especially if they're not using any resistance training, right? So that's the elephant in the room. Which is it? Is it protein that we need a lot? Or is it low protein? Is it low calories? Because we also know that calorie restriction is associated with longevity. So which is it? Is it muscle or is it both? Can you actually build muscle or maintain muscle with a calorie restriction? And we know that certain calorie restriction diets and use of the GLP-1s and the other diet medications that they may induce sarcopenia. But that sarcopenia, which is lack of muscle, that sarcopenia can be mitigated by resistance training. So is it resistance training, calorie restriction, protein, low or moderate amount of protein? And that's what I think there's still some studies that need to be done to show what is the best in humans. And obviously longevity studies in humans are relatively difficult and we need these animal studies. But is a human equivalent to a mouse? A mouse eats a similar omnivorous diet in the laboratory. However, in difference to humans, they don't really die of necessarily falls or frailty per se, because they're not going to fall and break a hip like humans do. So certainly protein, there could be some differences here, but they also develop similar cancers. They also develop heart disease. They also develop diabetes if they're fed too much sugar. And so there's a lot of studies regarding keto diets and similar diets and carnivore diets that show that carnivore diets are not necessarily so good because they have a high saturated fat and and so what is the best diet? The best diet is an individual's choice, but I can tell you that the people who live to be 100 and areas where they live to be 100 eat less meat. They may have an okay amount of protein in their diet from other sources, beans and nuts and the like. They eat grains, but they eat grains that are whole grains, and they eat grains that they've grown themselves. And they also have a lot of movement because they do a lot of their own work. They don't have other people doing their work for them. They don't just go buy packaged foods or fast foods and just eat them. They make their own foods and they have a lot of connection in these places. And people who live to be 100, they have a lot of connection with family, with friends, with volunteering with groups or their religion, etc. So I can tell you that not every person is going to benefit from one diet, one lifestyle, but it needs to be sensible and it needs to have all of the five tenets of longevity: diet, movement, creativity, and better sleep, and then also potentially less plastic, less processed foods. So we're going to be talking about diet first, and this we're going to talk about the five F's of a good diet, and that is fiber, polyphenols, the pH in there being the F, healthy fats, fermented foods, and whole foods. So we're going to be eating these things, less meat, mostly plant-based diet, plant forward as it might be. There's this new slang being bantered about being plant forward now. And so we're going to be talking about this diet, and I'm going to build upon what we've already talked about, the five F's. We're going to be showing you some fermented foods. With basically all five of these, we're going to get that in our fermented foods. Berries and greens, we've already talked about doing these every day, omega-3s, calcium and vitamin D and B12. We're introducing this week a little bit more of the intermittent fasting and the time restricted feeding as we go along and we achieve some weight loss and we achieve our diet to have our microbiome better involved um, in our livelihood and a better microbiome in our intestines. We're going to be able to experience and accomplish this intermittent fasting and time restricted feeding better. Intermittent fasting would involve, and some would say that intermittent fasting will decrease um, insulin secretion in your body, such that insulin can be actually a carcinogen and a bad thing if there's too much of it, or if your body is resistant to it and you're needing to secrete way too much of it to be able to accomplish your glycemic control, then it can be actually bad. So obviously, if you're needing to secrete that much, then obviously calorie restriction and other of these accomplishments you need to continue. Time restricted feeding is basically just you only want to eat a certain amount of time during the day, and intermittent fasting is you're going to fast for a certain period of time. Could be 24 hours, could be 36 hours. Some would say that also that enemy mTOR, that it takes a pretty prolonged fast, up to 2 to 3 days, in order to diminish mTOR enough to affect longevity. I think the overall consensus of this is that the main accomplishment that we're getting here is calorie restriction. If you can only eat for 6 hours out of the day, and as long as you don't overeat during those 6 to 8 hours, then you're less likely to eat a high amount of calories. Um, I'm also going to try to go for an oil-free day and cook mainly with water. So what have we done this week? The fermented foods. Here's something I've started to do, and we've got I purchased several of these fermentation jars. They have weights in them so that it can weigh down the contents of it. This is a chickpea fermentation that also has habanero peppers. It has some onions and some spices in there, some peppercorns. And this is, you can see the airlock here, which only allows air to escape. You can accomplish this relatively cheaply and not have to get this kind of a jar, in that they make lids for your mason jars that you can just use a mason jar, and lids that have an airlock in them. And so this is something we're going to be doing a lot more of, and I'll show you some of the fruits of our labor on this. Amazing. I hope this is going to taste good. This has been fermenting for about, I'd say 7 to 10 days. And you can ferment as long as you want. You can ferment for just 3 days, and it might have less of a tangy taste with that. And then you can extend that up to 2, 3 weeks, because some of my fermentations in the past, my fermented hot sauces, I've fermented for 2 to 3 weeks. Um, that's probably the easiest and first place to start, is with a fermented hot sauce or fermented jalapeno peppers, because it's a relatively easy process, and it's more difficult to go wrong with it. Perhaps you can see the maybe bubbles come up out of there. There's a couple of bubbles in the side. And you can see the what used to be a pretty clear surface there now probably has some lactic acid in it and has some other waste products of the fermentation process. The reason fermentation is useful is because of the products of the bacteria that are in there are being incorporated into now your milieu here. And that often involves fatty acids such as butyrate, butyric acid, and a few others that are actually food for our intestines. So even if I were to kill all of the bacteria here, that is potentially some prebiotic and probiotic compounds in there that will help your intestines digest and help the bacteria in your intestines. And then some of these bacteria, if you don't kill the bacteria, obviously they may be able to populate your intestinal milieu. What some have found is that the bacteria that are in probiotics, such as yogurt, and those types of bacteria that you might take in a capsule, those probiotics have a difficult time incorporating into the microbiome of your intestine. And so fermented foods actually have a better ability to incorporate it in the microbiome. Um, and so, um, any questions regarding this? I think that amazing situation here. I think we've just begun to, and I've experimented over many years of fermentation, but I think we're going to get more heavy into it and try to do this with a lot of our food sources because we bought several jars like this so we can try a lot of different things. What are we going to be trying to ferment soon? More hot sauces.
What vegetables are you looking forward to fermenting the most?
Um, you and I, both love, and we've talked about this. This is, Emma. She is joining the podcast here today. Emma and I both love spicy foods. And so anything we can do spicy, if we're going to ferment something, I am sure we're going to add habanero or serrano peppers to it because 100% that's going to be there. I think fermented green beans. What are you looking forward to?
I think I'm excited most to ferment a red cabbage that maybe has some curry aspects to it. And then I'm really big into pickles, as you know, and I think that it's going to be fun to just taste the difference in sourness between naturally fermented cucumbers and actually pickled cucumbers without vinegar.
Yeah, so this week we experimented with just pickling a set of cucumbers, and so that involves just you and carrots involving just using vinegar, right? So certainly vinegar is a great health benefit in and of itself, but certainly then you can also have the fermentation produce some similar compounds naturally. So we're going to compare fermenting pickles and carrots to the actual just pickled pickles and carrots, pickled pickles and carrots. Say that three times, right? So.
We haven't fermented that I think we should do this week too is onions because I don't necessarily like pickled onions. I really like raw onions. But I think maybe we should ferment some yellow onions.
Yeah, I think some yellow onions, that might be interesting. And one thing, I'm not sure if you could hear her talk about doing the cabbage, this and a curried cabbage fermented. This obviously is something different from kimchi, but and or sauerkraut, but fermented cabbage is certainly a way to go and see if you can flavor it such that it will be. I'm not a big fan of sauerkraut for the most part. Maybe I've put it on certain products in the past and I don't mind it and I kind of like the taste of it on, let's say a Polish sausage or a bratwurst, etc. Obviously that's some processed food right there, but and the sauerkraut does have a pickled taste to it, and maybe there will be something different about the kimchi that we do ourselves. I'm not a fan of fishy tasting foods, so adding fish sauce or what is it that they add to kimchi that has a kind of
Fish,
kind of
fish flakes.
fish flakes or fish, yeah. So we're gonna try to alter kind of the kimchi cabbage and make it curried, make it spicy, and I think that would be interesting too. So obviously, there's a lot of things.
Don't forget to add clove actually when you're fermenting, because clove per gram has one of the highest concentrations of polyphenols of all
Yeah.
foods.
So potentially adding cloves to your pickling spice that you might use, because there is a lot of polyphenols, as she said in there. Other things that we're going to be doing. I love a good salsa, and so here, and obviously, when you make a salsa, what do you put with your salsa? And are you going to use chips, which are, if you can find the right chips that have been baked in better oil, all the better, and obviously potentially has some carbs to it. But you can always do something different. And here's my salsa. This salsa has onions and fresh tomatoes and onions and avocado and I think it was habanero peppers, right? So this I made earlier today, and instead of chips, slice up a pepper, a red bell pepper here. Amazing. So the other thing I ate today for my package-free foods is purple Japanese sweet potatoes. The amount of polyphenols, can you see how purple that is? That's amazing. That right there is polyphenols. Polyphenols and all of these antioxidants that you get from that, that is amazing. And so baking this creates an amazing product. It goes a long way toward your health and toward your brain function. I think Emma wants to have some more of that too. And good Lord, we're going to take a little snack break here, and I'm going to have a little bit because I didn't get any avocado on that last pepper that I ate. So, yeah, there's a little snack attack here. I can't stand to have an avocado go to waste. And isn't it amazing? Isn't it horrible how short of a shelf life avocados have?
You
That
can
is-
store them in water in the fridge and they.
And you can store them better, yeah. There's ways that you can do that. All right, so on to the next. This is this week, week 7. We're gonna try to eat more fruit fermented foods this week. We're gonna continue to get our omega-3, and we're gonna have more intermittent fasting. I had gone a few weeks with not as ideal of a diet, and I think that intermittent fast for me really tends to reset things. And time restricted feeding helps me avoid, I don't need breakfast in the morning, and I tend to use that as my time restriction where I am not eating. Certainly, there are days I need breakfast for some reason or another, and that can be the case for anybody, and everybody's different. And I'm going to try to go oil free for days. Some days try to cook with just water, but sometimes I want to use my olive oil and cook with it. Okay, so here's part of our field trip. We're gonna leave here, gonna head out, and we're gonna join in the gym first for one of our 2 field trips. We're gonna have 2 field trips. You ever go to school and have 2 field trips in one day? Impossible, right? Today, 2 field trips, heading out. All right, so we'll see you there. All right, now we're back in the gym. Got done with all of our diet, and we're now in the movement section of our exercise every week. We're trying to get 3 resistance trainings, 3 cardiovascular trainings every week, maybe a day of rest. On that day of rest, I want to make sure that I am doing some stretching and some core exercises, some planks and some sit-ups on that day off as well, not to take a full day of rest on that day. However, here is the important thing, one of the most important things in older life to prevent falls, and that is a major morbidity and mortality. In other words, people die when they fall when they're above age 60 years of age. They die when they fall at any age, for that matter, because of what happens with the immobility after the fall, okay? So, and what can happen later on in life with that. So the important things we talked about before of resistance training and getting that strength up. People live longer when they are stronger, and that helps prevent falls, but that's not it. So there's been some data lately saying that the different varieties of movement is what helps make you live longer, and that is the key. The different types of movement that you're doing is going to give you different types of, let's say, balance. If you're playing tennis, you're going from side to side, and that helps. But if you're running, you're going really just in a single plane of motion, right? That running is very important for cardiovascular exercise, but might not necessarily help you falling. Certainly, you're going to hit some curbs and hit some cracks in the sidewalk, etc. That's going to help you prevent falls. But here's what I'm going to add to my resistance training every time I do my resistance training, and that is some balance exercises. Already, I do some of these already. You've seen a week ago when I was in the British Virgin Islands, didn't have a gym, so I did a lot of lunges, did a lot of yoga type activities, and training on the beach, and that involves a lot of balance. So here we're going to start out with our lunges. We're going to start out with some jump squats, okay? So holding myself over my knees, just above my knees, and thighs parallel if I can get it down to that spot, and then doing a jump squat, holding steady in that station, right? So that is the key, getting those thighs working and thighs burning, then doing another jump. I'm going to do, usually I do at least 10 of these. This is part of my thigh strength training. Also, the quads and the hamstrings. Okay, so next, I'm going to do some lunges, okay? So lunges, same kind of activity is going to be there. Getting down to a parallel thigh. And this is somewhat of a one-legged balance almost, right? So you're out over your knee. You don't want to get too far over your knee. You don't want it to be too far behind. You want to get some stress on that quads, right? And if you wanted to, in your gym or wherever you're at, you could see when I was in the British Virgin Islands that I just went up and down the beach this way, 50 yards and 50 yards back. Really burns the quads, right? So now a little bit of something we can get from the balance. If you have a ball or if you have a small bench, you can try to just go onto that ball, practice your balance, be very careful not to fall. One thing I don't want to do is create a fall, create an injury, okay? So I'm doing what I can. And in that knee parallel, 90-degree angle. The ball gives you a little bit of instability there that you need to work against. Here's another way you can get onto this, right? So something a little simpler like that. Next, we're going side to side, right? So going all the way from there to here. Try to go, this is almost like the speed skating or skiing, right? That balance, single leg, because that is going to be an important thing because you're going to trip. The key is going to be to catch yourself quickly. It's going to be the amount of force that your leg and your foot and your calf muscles, the whole gamut, the whole appendage there, every single muscle must need to be train to get there, to keep you from falling, okay? So that balance. Last part, a little warm down, not as much activity. We're going to do some one-legged exercise with the tree pose from yoga. Okay, so I'm not the best yoga person, but I'm going to be trying to do 30 seconds to a minute here every time. Going to the other leg. Okay, so doing that, and you can do a couple of other one-legged exercises. Potentially kind of the almost a warrior pose. You can do variations on it. See, kept me from falling, right? So, and then when you're really tired, this is going to be difficult. So be very careful. I'm very careful. Okay, so trying to stay on one leg. You can try to bring your foot forward. You can try to do a pistol squat, which I can't do. Okay, so pistol squat there, can't do it, but keep working on anything you can do to prevent falls in the future and to get your strength up to where that strength and that ability to prevent falls in the future is going to be immensely important. So look forward to week 8. We're coming back here. I'll see you on the other side for some more talk about sleep, circadian rhythms. We're going to visit the sauna. We're going to be talking about some other ways to avoid plastics and packaged foods that I'm going to be doing this week to prevent that plastic buildup and that processed foods. Processed foods are the enemy, and I'm going to try to avoid them at all possible. So thank you very much for joining me in the gym. We're going to be doing a lot more field trips like this in the future. We'll see you soon. All right, we're back. Was that fun or what? So welcome back again. We are going to be talking about some creativity and connection next. And you know, I can't stress enough from where we were in the gym about the prevention of falls and the importance of balance and the speed of reaction and strength. So think about what happens when you fall, right? And remember falling and you trip over something. What is the difference between you falling and injuring yourself and you catching yourself? It's the speed of the reaction, right? So that that there is metrics to measure the speed of your reaction and also the speed of your ability to take a foot, trip, and then take your other foot and get it out over yourself to catch yourself, right? So those kind of things are what I need to do to train for myself for 20 years from now, when maybe I won't be as strong as I am now. And it's all about putting in the bank that strength and increasing your strength now, because if you aren't strong now and you don't do anything about it, you can only get weaker, okay? So, and your reaction times are only going to get less, and then you're going to potentially fall. There was one time that I was running on Bayshore, which is a long sidewalk in Tampa. It's along the water. And I had just lifted weights, and I was weak as heck because I had really gone to max, probably something I shouldn't have done, but I went to a max, and I couldn't probably do another bench press if I tried. And I was out running. I was with a run club, and I was out running, and I tripped and tried to catch myself and couldn't catch myself with my legs because they were so tired. Couldn't catch myself even with my arms. When I reached out onto the cement to catch myself, they wouldn't even support me, and I hit my face. And so that kind of thing, I can realize right now exactly how bad it can get if you are weak. And obviously that was an artificial weakness that I created myself. But think about that. Think about that you can become so weak. And if you are not doing resistance training, that and approximately 70% of Americans at least do no resistance training whatsoever. And that is the difference between health and non-health. Okay, so all right, so let's move on to the next part. You know, the third part of our pillars here, of our 5 pillars, creativity and connection. This week, and we started this over a few weeks here, is volunteering. That connection to your community. You have a community wherever you live. It can be multiple communities. It could be a community that is even far from you. You could have a place you used to live. Like I have a hometown that I've haven't been back to in a while, and I hope to get back to see them because there are some connections there I'd like to reconnect with and see some of these people. But volunteering in your community can really connect you with the community and the needs of the community. It can be a lot of different possibilities. Could be faith-based, it could be not faith-based. Big brother, big sister, it can be volunteering at a homeless shelter. It can be making sandwiches for homeless. Emma had just last weekend, she and her mother didn't cook. They made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and they made about, what, 30 of them or so, 30 something sandwiches. Just drove around to some of the areas of our town, Tampa, and gave them out to some homeless people. What else was it you gave to them? Some cookies and some cookies. They made some cookies and gave them. So little things like that really connect you and ground you and help you realize that, number one, that you can help other people. Number two, that sometimes when we have a woe is me attitude and oh, my life is so, either you might complain about your life or you might maybe complain less if you went and helped some other people with their lives. So that is what we're doing for our creativity and connection. We're also continuing painting. I'm continuing to learn 2 foreign languages. I think that is something that if you want to try to learn a foreign language. Obviously, there are multiple apps on phones and multiple programs you can get that can help you do that. And it helps that I have a daughter who is in France studying abroad right now, and so I'm going to be learning more French. I've learned French over the years a bit, and I'm relatively fluent in Spanish. So these are some things you can do to add to your brain processing on a daily basis and creating positive connections through language with other people, through volunteering with other people, through connections with your friends. Try again, continuing everything we've done in the past as well through connection. The last part, not the last part, the next part we're going to be talking about is sleep. Okay, so, and this is going to involve another field trip. We're not going to go have a sleepover or anything like that. That's not our field trip, but we're going to meet someplace that you wouldn't expect is going to help with your sleep, but it helps improve your score. We're trying to improve our sleep scores and tracking this on a day-to-day basis with a tracker, with let's say a ring or a watch, etc. Those things can really help you determine what helps you and what doesn't. And I've noticed that this thing, where we're going to go, and it's going to be to the sauna. Heat therapy, such as a sauna or hot tub or other, 20 minutes, 5 days a week, potentially decreases cardiovascular mortality. So we're going to go check out the sauna and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. All right, so we are here in the sauna getting some heat therapy, 20 minutes of heat therapy. By the end of this, I'll be good and sweating. I've got it already really warmed up. got to get this camera back out of this heat for a minute. But so 20 minutes, usually in the morning or the afternoon. I like in the afternoon because that has been shown to improve cardiovascular outcomes, but also improve sleep outcomes. You don't want to do, and I don't want to do, and this comes from experience. I've been in a house that I've had a hot tub, been in the hot tub late at night, and the next morning I don't feel as refreshed after that hot tub. And some of it may be because I really love the heat. So I really love to get into the hot tub and stay there for a long time. So I'm somewhat of a hot tub and sauna addict, you might say. So here is part of our sleep schedule improvement for this week. And that is to try to do at least 3 to 5 days of sauna or hot tub in the afternoon. And that will try to help my sleep. I've already done all of these other things with regards to sleep, and for as far as day light cycle, getting less light in the evening, more light in the morning, exercising sometime in the morning to afternoon, and less in the late night. I know that sometimes I have to do it that way. It doesn't usually seem to affect my sleep too much as long as I can get enough sleep. And as long as I'm not exercising till midnight. I used to be a really late night runner when I lived on Davis Island, Florida. Had the island basically to myself at night, and I would go out at midnight. Sometimes I would go out at noon or 6 a.m., but there were often times I was out there at midnight running, and I find that kind of relaxes me in the evening. But I can tell you that with experience there too, it probably wasn't the best for my sleep. Really that some sort of sleep monitoring is really important so you can see exactly what you're getting and what you're getting out of your nighttime. Really can't stress enough for myself that I sleep better when I get some kind of activity. If I'm really sedentary during the day and don't get anything accomplished, or if I take a nap during the day, then I can almost be guaranteed that I am not going to get a good night's sleep that night, and may take a little longer to get to sleep, or may wake up in the middle of the night because I'm too rested from other sedentary activities. So here we go, where we're going to, from here, talk about some of our connectivity and the rest, and I'll see you on the other side. We're going to really get out into the field from now on. Week 7, we're almost to 2 months on this, and I know that I've had some delays in this, and so even though it says week 7 and I'm really trying, I know I'm busy, I'm a physician, I have all of these activities, I've had travel, etc. to interrupt my filming of this, but I can tell you that I am really concentrating on this every week, even though it's taken me a while to get these 7 weeks out. This will culminate in this 52 weeks really strongly. I can't stress that enough. To once you've fallen off the wagon, you get off your goals one day, try to get right back on the horse that next day. Never do 2 in a row. 2 in a row is bad, okay? 2 in a row means that you could be heading toward the other opposite end of habits. We want to get the good, healthy habits. Getting off the horse for 2 days in a row is a trend that we want to stay away from, because the trend we want is 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, 5 days in a row, 7 days in a row. We want all of these days in a row. And I'm telling you, this is an amazing undertaking that you are taking if you're coming right along with me, and I am taking. I can't wait to live the rest of my life in a healthy manner. Can't wait to be 100 years old and say, God damn, at 100 years of age, I'm doing this. But you know why I'm doing this at 100 years of age? Because I did that at 57 years of age, or I did that at 40 years of age, 30 years of age. I continued at it. And really, it can't be too late of a start, okay? Even if you can start at age 50, if you can start at age 60 or even 70, those kind of things will really help you in the long run. We'll see you on the other side. I've already gone through the diet, the movement, we're at sleep, we're heading toward the connectivity, and the rest of the time, we'll see you at the other side. All right, wasn't that fun? I hope that you can have the opportunity to try to get some heat therapy somehow through a sauna or a hot tub. Not everyone has that opportunity. Obviously, I have a gym here that has a sauna. My brother has his own sauna in his house. That would be amazing. Um, so 20 minutes, 5 days a week is better than 1 day a week for cardiovascular mortality. Isn't that amazing? So certainly there is this, your sleep, you need to have a sloping, decreasing temperature throughout the evening and a low point in during sleep, a low point of your temperature, and that improves your sleep. And any perturbation of that during sleep could be a problem. And so theoretically, and I think the timing of this usually is in the mid-afternoon or late afternoon or at the latest early evening. And I've noticed, and as I said, I've noticed in the past that if I sat in the hot tub late at night, 10 o'clock, and I went to bed at 10 o'clock, I was not very rested the next night. But theoretically, you would think, oh, I'm supposed to be decreasing my temperature in the mid-afternoon to the evening. If I perturb that too late, that could be a problem, but you would think maybe even in the afternoon that could be a problem. But actually, the increase in temperature it briefly has some cortisol secretion, briefly raises your temperature. Obviously, your temperature is going up, but your temperature actually quickly comes back down after using the hot tub. So, then and this goes toward basically stress hormesis. So a small amount of stress is good, and your body's reaction to stress is good as long as it's not prolonged stress and as long as it's not stress that is stretched into the bedtime time frame. So when you're getting to bed, you're not going to want to have a major amount of stress. Don't bring work or laptop into your bed. Don't bring homework into your bed. And that's been some kind of tenet of basically trying to keep that sleep space, the bedroom space, as only for sleep and relaxation. If you watch TV in your bed, as long as that kind of is relaxing to you, don't watch the evening news in bed because certainly that's stressful, right? When you're seeing all the killing, etc., that's going on around the world in the news and all the depressing news. Try not to do that. Try to watch something entertaining. But if you are watching television in the bedroom at night, right before you go to bed, number one, lights off. Number two, the TV should be a good distance away from your bed so there's not so much lights streaming into your eyes because you don't want the eyes to be exposed to a lot of light at night. So those things, and then potentially do what we talked about last week, which is entrainment and meditation right before bedtime. So about 20 minutes before bedtime. All right. So continuing on that vein, thanks for joining me in the gym and in the sauna. We're going to be going into the kitchen a bit soon too. So we're going to be showing you some things to do in the kitchen as well on some field trips. We're going to make a lot of different field trips in the near future. So next, that fifth pillar that we've talked about in processed foods, packaged foods, and plastics, trying to avoid plastics in our household. Um, this is a very difficult thing and can be done slowly if you can, because sometimes this can be an expensive venture. If your entire kitchen is filled with plastic and you want to replace that all at once, that could cost hundreds of dollars at the start. I think the main thing, as we talked about in week one in the introduction, the first thing, food storage, getting away from plastics, getting away from the plastic bags. And if anything can go in a plastic bag, it can also go in a glass container, right? So that inert substance of glass that does not leach into the foods is essential. Okay, so that part. But we're going to expand upon that package-free days that we talked about last week and go to potentially 1 to 2 package-free days every week. Okay. You're not going to be able to avoid all packaged foods all the time, but whole foods generally 90% of the time. And when I talk about that, I am only vegan, let's say 1 to 2 to 3 days a week right now, and I'm trying to get to 6. That vegan diet, even though I'm only 1 to 2 right now, or 3, I'm probably right close to 3, that vegan extends into the rest of the week, and that I will have probably at least every day a fully vegan, fully whole food, fully um, healthy meal. But I might have some chicken later on that day, or I might have some seafood. And it is exceedingly rare that I have any beef right now. I personally am trying to avoid beef in general. That package-free days is extremely important. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about this processed foods and these blue zones. Again, we've always talked about blue zones and where people live 100 years old the most, and where dementia is less. It's through these potentially older diets that are similar to the Mayan diet, similar to the Mediterranean diets. Those people and our ancestors, let's say great grandparents going back, they did not eat much meat because meat was a luxury back then, right? So, luxuries of meat, I think that's how we need to think about it. That meat should be a luxury. Meat should be a once a week, maybe. It could be even less than that, maybe once a month, because our ancestors and people in these blue zones really only eat meat about once a month. Meat is not absolutely necessary. Meat is not absolutely necessary for protein. Protein can be obtained by these beans and nuts that and legumes, peas, etc., that we can consume and get plenty of protein from. And there are examples of some of these, let's say, bodybuilders, weightlifters who are vegan, and you can find them out there. Obviously, they're few and far between because a lot of these people are gym bros and they're going to be eating, oodles of protein from meat. And I can tell you that. Let's say football players and people who are eating a lot of meat do not live longer than those people who are less of a carnivore diet. So these package-free days we're going to talk about we're going to try to limit our screen time. And for plastics this week, we're going to discuss our oral care, our dental tablets. I'm using dental tablets, which come in plastic-free packaging, fluoride-free, and I also use a boar's head brush now. So a boar's head toothbrush to try to avoid the plastic. And certainly, if you're brushing your teeth, if you've ever had looked at your toothbrush and they only have about half of the toothbrushes left after about a month, where does that plastic toothbrush go? Does it go into your intestines? Does it get degraded? Where does that go? So when you think about these things, think about what process and what on a daily basis I can do. This is what I've been thinking about, what I can do to avoid plastic. And we talked about clothing before. All right, so we'll talk more about that. And so in review, that's our plastic free for the week. In review, these blue zones, the studies of the Mediterranean diet and movement, we've gone through and shown what my process is going to be. And in my diet, let's review what we've done over the last 6 weeks and now a 7th week. Gotten into this Mediterranean diet, intermittent fasting, creating nutrient scarcity. Nutrient scarcity is the key to decreasing mTOR. So mTOR is decreased when we have nutrient scarcity. That nutrient scarcity can be any of the 3 macronutrients, right? So obviously we need to continue our vitamins. We need to continue vitamin health. And however, the macronutrients, sugar, protein, and fat, don't necessarily need to be the unhealthy, but that nutrient scarcity is what inhibits mTOR, and that's what is the key for longevity, is inhibiting mTOR. That's what's behind the possibility that some of these medications and diet alterations actually increase longevity. And you can't be anorexic, you can't be bulimic, you can't start throwing up your food because you ate too much food. You can't have orthorexia either. You can't be rigid about something because that is going to create certain psychological issues over the long run. And so here's where I want to have a sensible change, right? So I've increased my fiber, which is food for microbiome, signaling and better hormone balance. Psyllium husk in the morning I use with a lot of water. Oats, organic foods, organic seeds and grains. No fast food. We've gone to very little processed food, all organic. Antioxidants are the key. If you're going to eat something that has potentially sugar in it, then make it worthwhile. And that worthwhileness is the antioxidants and the polyphenols and the other antioxidant compounds that come in berries and olives, and hence why potentially olive oil might be one of the better oils that you can use, is because of the antioxidants. I've gone to almost no dairy, though I had nachos that had some cheese in it last night. I drink almost no milk, no red meat, almost no red meat. So I do a Sunday meal prep. I drink less alcohol, low sugar, almost keto, but only sugar in the form of the berries, dates, and honey, perhaps. And now I've gone to fermented foods and yogurts. Some of those homemade, greens and berries daily, beans and nuts as my protein source, and vegan 1 to 3 days per week. Okay, so that's our review of what we've gone through. Every week we're going to go through a review of where we're at in the process and what we've done in the past that's going to help us in the future, what we're doing this week to change. Exercising, again, we've increased our strength, increasing cardiovascular fitness. We're trying to avoid falls and injury avoidance too, because one thing for sure, especially in the gym bro and the gym kind of mentality of let's do a heavy weight and max, those create injuries. And I can tell you that I've seen a lot of weightlifters later in life, when I see them at age 60 or 70, they have major problems. Okay, so they have major back problems, major mobility problems, and that's going to affect them in the long run. So if at all, protect yourself from injury. And obviously, you can't protect yourself from all injury. You have to do some strength training, but at some point in your life, you don't need to be a bodybuilder. You don't need, I think what was the Plates for Dates or something like that was a book somebody put out that basically said, I'm gonna have big muscles, and that's basically you need to lift weights in order to get the girl kind of thing. What the heck, and certainly that can be true to a degree when you're young, right? Once you reach a certain age, you really need to start thinking about longevity more. And that is not max. I see some older people at age 50 still in the gym doing maxes, and they're maybe taking some products that allow them, there are certain over-the-counter products that may or may not have some testosterone in them that the FDA kind of catches every once in a while. Those compounds may have some detrimental effect in the future. And same with those maxes and any injuries that they have, and any kind of spinal issues, and let's say disc problems that they might have in the future because of heavy weightlifting. So I can tell you that I am doing injury avoidance. I'm doing higher reps. So let's say anywhere from 12 to 24 reps. I'm never, and I am potentially to failure almost. I'm never to failure. I'm always to maybe 2 or 3 short of failure. But if I get to 24 reps, I can tell you that no matter what it is, whether it's curls or whether it's shoulder presses, that I am getting some benefit with resistance training there. with injury avoidance. Okay. Different forms of exercise, different forms of movement, bicycling, running, walking, lifting, dumbbells, stretching, potentially tennis, any kind of sport that you can avoid injury in. And we see a lot of people that are getting injured, let's say, for example, with pickleball. Pickleball is a sport that some people get involved with. It may not necessarily be a very good athlete. And I tell you, if you can get involved with pickleball and you can get involved with it safely, do it. It does have a lot of benefit because you are doing some of that same thing with tennis where you're getting side to side motion, you're pivoting, but do it safely and do it lightly. Don't go out there and get on a 2-and-2 and go do some kind of pickleball tournament where you are getting um, high risk situations where you are straining to win a game, win a match when you may not be able to keep yourself from falling in those situations. Do it lightly. Go out and volley with someone. You know, that's my favorite kind of tennis is just volleying. I may hit the ball hard, but I try to avoid injury. Okay, so 6 days a week, we're doing 3 days of cardiovascular exercise, 3 days of resistance training, a day of rest. But on that day of rest, we just talked about that, is stretching, injury free, some rest on that day, but also some stretching. And I want to also do some of that core workout, maybe just a little bit of planking, maybe a little bit of sit-ups on that day to try to maintain on that day. But give yourself that day of rest where you're not doing any resistance training, cardiovascular. Give your body ability to recover. Okay, so that's important. Recovery. That's a on your ring and your Apple Watch. You might have some data that says whether you are in good recovery, whether you get resilience, that kind of thing. And look at that and really take heed to what's either your physician or anybody else is telling you about what you need to do, and listen to your physician. No matter what you see me doing, whatever you see some influencer out there doing, some kind of somebody who is on any other podcast, etc., what they're doing is not necessarily for you. What's great for me, everybody is individual. And some people have talked about the N of one, right? So everybody's different. Everybody has different genes. Everybody has different cholesterol issues. Everybody has different things that could impact their health in the long run. And so don't necessarily take it from me exactly what to do. This is what I'm doing, not necessarily what you should be doing. Okay. So again, there is at the end of every podcast I do, there is this thing that you need to research for yourself what you want to do for your longevity. Research longevity, research the animal studies of longevity. Because if you do a deep dive under Chat GPT and say, give me 100 research studies on the effects of whatever on longevity, diet on longevity, look at those research studies because those are what informs you. Okay. So the other things we're doing for connection, we're increasing our connection to family and friends. We're going through our phone book, not our phone book, our yellow pages or white pages. We're going through our phone book in our phone and look for somebody you've lost connection with, somebody you can connect with again, somebody you can meet up with. Being in Florida, I always have my friends from Iowa coming down to come to Florida, so I try to find that whenever they're coming down to try to connect with some of them. Create a social enablement of this new lifestyle that you want to do. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to create a social enablement. I have a girlfriend who is helping me with cooking and creating these delicious foods. If you have a difficulty with cooking, there are a lot of different mail order foods that you can get, but always make sure that they are whole foods, that you can try to make it so that they are more healthy, less meat, and more of a plant-based diet. Which might be good for you. So the other connectivity is texting, phone calls, but really the connectivity is really in person. So try to meet up with people that you've lost touch with. Okay, so then the creativity comes in, and that is something we're doing every Friday. We're doing poetry for Friday Frime Day, and painting. We're doing some painting, some acrylic painting that I've been doing. So try to get that kind of connectivity and creativity. I've also started my third book. If you don't know that I have written two novels plus a scientific book that had been written. I started my third novel. Also, at the end of this 52 weeks, I'm hoping to put this into a book as well. So look for reading, look for going to a play, let's say, for example, or an opera. Try that out. See what you can find. Music is certainly a creative outlet, and try to, if you know how to play the guitar, which I've learned a slight amount of learning a guitar. If you can try to do that, that will go a long ways toward your ability to live in the future without dementia, because music and creativity is certainly a factor in preventing dementia, and obviously connection as well. And sleep, we've talked about circadian rhythms, getting morning light, exercise, stretching in the morning to try to loosen up the muscles, potentially, and getting less stress, meditation. So if you do have a stressful day, trying to diminish that stress, trying to cope with stress better. Potentially, if you might need a psychologist to help you with that, you might have had stressful or traumatic issues in the past. That's important, and that mindset at bedtime also helps. Lights down, phone out of the room at night, red light at night, and then entrainment, meditation, and stress-free bedtimes. We just talked about this week. Plastics, we've gotten rid of a lot of my plastic containers and gone to glass, stainless steel, or uh, or potentially wooden utensils. Bottles, trying to get rid of some of those. Not all bottles can be plastic free. It's very difficult. Cookware, trying to stay away from the non-stick cookware and going to stainless steel is what I like. Prepping, food processing, trying to get that to a glass and stainless steel food processor. Same thing with a stainless steel mixer that you can get. Utensils, trading in those spatulas. I've gone to all wood. You can't get rid of all silicone. You know that thing, my girlfriend says, yeah, I have to have that silicone thing that scrapes the bowl. Well, I can always just leave some for waste, but she likes the silicone thing, and the more waste you have in the bowl, the more you can lick your finger and be able to get some of it, the cookie dough on your finger so you can eat it, right? So the more you leave in there, so why would you get rid of it all with that silicone scraper, right? So, um, everybody has a different opinion on this. The more you can get rid of plastic, the better, though. Um, Packaged food, we're getting rid of packaged food as well. So again, so look for us anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we are on YouTube Music, um, and some of these are in video format. So um, if you saw some of the video where we were in the sauna and we were in the gym, you probably weren't able to see it if you only had this through audio. But let me tell you, we're going to be doing more field trips, and I'll try to do a little bit better at explaining what I'm doing when we're on our field trips, because I know that a lot of you are on audio and not video podcasts. We are on TikTok, Brent W. Laartz, MD. And we are on our website, goonpro.com. We have all of our videos there. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Threads, we have a Substack that all of our videos are available on as well. Our podcasts, videos are on YouTube. And again, as I said, our podcast is on YouTube Music. We have now something every week. We have the Monday meditation. We have the Sunday Science now going on. We're going to be starting something called Throwback Thursdays, where we talk about the history of medicine. We also have Friday Frime Day. We're going to be talking about poetry and reading some poetry that I've written, and and then probably usually either Thursday or Friday, we're going to be releasing this 52-week episodes. Okay, so thank you very much for joining. Again, follow us on our Instagram, follow us on our TikTok. Check out some of the short videos that we're doing. Also, I can't wait to see you again next week at week 8.
This site and any information communicated within it are not intended as medical advice. The information herein is not intended as medical care, diagnosis, or treatment of any medical condition. No component of this content, including discussion or comments, shall be construed or implied as establishing a doctor-patient relationship. Before you translate or copy any of the information, diet, exercise, or products utilized herein or on any social media post to your own practice, consult your own research, physician, therapist, or nutritionist for your own health. No warranties or claims are made as to the benefits or risks of any treatments, diet, exercise, or products herein. Research any treatments, diet, exercise, or products thoroughly before trying for yourself. Referral, affiliate, or advertising fees may be garnered by this site.